Hi, thanks for joining me this evening. How are you all feeling?
Good, good.
We haven't met face to face like this before, but I'm Dr. Simmons, the one who's been sending you all the emails and text messages. Now, as you know, I'm the Canadian lead investigator for the clinical trials that you're all part of. Well, it's been 43 days since you've received the first dose of the COVID-19 experimental vaccine, and I've called us together to discuss some of the aspects of the daily logs that you shared with me. So Ashley, perhaps you could start, and James and Mary, please jump in at any time.
Hey, everybody. Well, Doc, it all started about 4 weeks ago. My sense of taste and smell started to get spotty. It got to where I could only recognize spicy foods like Indian and Mexican. Everything else was just bland. I could taste sour, sweet, and salty, but there was no flavor in anything else. I couldn't even distinguish between pears and apples, for example.
Well, sensory loss, sensory changes, loss of smell and taste. Now, they've been reported in a number of patients actually infected with the COVID-19. Most have regained normal sensory functions a week or two after recovering. Go on, Ashley.
Well, about 3 weeks ago, it started to get weird. Instead of tasting food and drinks, and you might not believe me, but my other senses started to get stimulated when I ate or drank. I started to see colors in my mind when I tasted, and I heard sounds too when I drank.
Yes, that is exactly what I experienced.
Me too. I thought I was going crazy. So, Doc, tell us, do we all have it then?
For me, it got even stranger. The same thing happened when I touched things, and when I heard music, it's like I could taste it. When I smell things, I could see it. Usually as numbers or colors. And when I looked at things, it's like I could feel it. Every sense seemed to be triggering a response that was different from normal.
Me too.
And me.
So what do you think's going on, Doc? I mean, my mind is full of ideas, but we want to hear it from you.
Well, after we reported this, I came across a phenomenon known as synesthesia. Simply put, synesthesia is a neurologically based condition in which one stimulation of one sensory or cognitive pathway leads to an involuntary experience in another. In humans, it's extremely rare, but it's not uncommon or even unheard of. Now, as far as why you're all experiencing this, I couldn't say, except for, of course, the common link is you've all received the COVID-19 within the last 7 weeks.
Yes, that's what we all think, Doc.
James, when you say we, have you been talking to each other about this? I didn't know you knew each other until today. What with the confidentiality and the blinded nature of this study.
Well, we don't exactly know each other.
In my case, I came to the same conclusion as you, Doc. Synesthesia. But I just woke up one day and knew that it was called that. Like, I didn't even Google it or research it or anything. I just woke up one day and I knew that what was happening was called synesthesia.
Me too.
Same here.
None of us have had any real scientific or medical training. I mean, James is an accountant, Ashley is a daycare center, and I'm a paralegal.
Again, how do you know what each other does if you haven't spoken?
Doc, later. Get to that later.
But that's not all, Doc. I don't know how it happened, but I started to think about things that I've never thought about before. Unusual things like astrophysics, engineering, biosciences. Oh, and quantum mechanics. You name it. Things I don't usually think about in my day-to-day life at the daycare center.
Okay, and I got a deeper understanding of advanced mathematics, specifically calculus. Stuff that I haven't thought about since university. And geological and evolutionary history.
Me too. Just about every scientific, technological, political, psychological, academic pursuit you could ever care to mention.
This is peculiar. None of you mentioned any of this to me in your daily notes.
Well, no, we didn't want to startle you. And we're just starting to understand it ourselves.
Wait a minute. How do I know that you're not just yanking my chain, concocting some cock and bull story? Good God, you're not anti-vaxxers, are you? Trying to undermine the program?
Okay. Why would anti-vaxxers pose as people with enhanced intellectual abilities?
It's a good point. That's not a trait I'd normally associate with conspiracy theory advocates or anti-vaxxers. But this is hard to understand. All right, Mary, a quick test. You say you have a better understanding of math, right? So what is pi to the 9th decimal?
3.141592653.
Impressive. James, who said the following? Lest men suspect your tale untrue, keep probability in view.
Well, that would be John Gay.
But these are questions that any run-of-the-mill contestant on Jeopardy could answer.
Okay. How about this? John Gay, born June 30th, 1685, died December 4th, 1732. And English poet and dramatist, he was perhaps best known for the Beggar's Opera, which he wrote in 1728. The epitaph on his gravestone was written by Alexander Pope, but finished with Gay's own couplet, which went something like this: "Life is a jest, and all things show it. I thought so once, and now I know it." Now, Doctor, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have been able to think of any of that on my own. Now, things like this come to mind without even trying.
Amazing. But you're the only 3 in your cohort of 29 that have reported anything like this synesthesia, let alone any of these supposed intellectual awakenings.
Well, that's not quite true, Doc. We're the first to have opened up, but we know that at least half of the test subjects in this study, 120 people, have had similar experiences. It's happening at different rates for different people. And some are nervous about sharing it because, well, they're still coming to terms with it. They're afraid that the vaccine might have affected their sanity or something. But they and, well, we're just beginning to understand.
Tell me again, how do you know what each other's experiencing? You don't even know them.
Can we talk about that later, Doctor? Right now, we really want to share some insights and just explain what we think is happening.
All right, as long as we come back to that. I haven't heard from the other trial leaders in China, Spain, or India that anything unusual is going on. Okay, so tell me, what do you think is going on?
Well, as you know, the vaccine is derived from the RNA of the SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus. Only a small part of its total RNA is used, the part which codes for a piece of the virus's outer capsule.
Yes, but we told you all about that in the pre-trial info sessions.
Okay, so the idea is that once injected, the RNA gets the host cells to produce the part of the capsule so that the body produces antibodies against it in the normal way, the basis of the immune response.
Again, that was explained to everybody. It's basic immunology. We are now measuring the antibody T3s in the blood to see if it's actually happening, and early results suggest that it is.
Yes, but what else does the viral RNA do?
Well, as far as we know, nothing. It's as you described, Mary. The host cells use the RNA to produce small snippets of the protein to stimulate the immune system, but without causing infection.
But what does the RNA do, generally?
Well, specialized RNAs in our bodies are responsible for transcribing the genetic code from our DNA blueprint, which then are translated using another set of RNAs to build proteins, one amino acid at a time.
And what do you know about the human genome? Or any genome, come to that?
Well, the genome is the total genetic component, all the DNA found in every living animal cell.
How much of the genome actually codes for the amount of RNA used?
Only about 10% of the DNA in our body actually codes for all proteins made. The other 90% or so is redundant. It's been accumulated throughout our evolutionary journey and just sits there. Things like genes for tails, or those little muscles behind the ears that make our ears move to see the direction of sound, and probably even genes to make gills from our primordial ancestors. All those redundant genes are found within our surplus DNA.
Exactly. And as you know, the DNA in the genome that codes for the usable proteins are known as exons, and the surplus parts of the human genome are known as the introns.
Look, I don't know how you guys know all this, because there was nothing in your case files to suggest that you had any of this kind of knowledge.
Oh, I didn't know any of this until a few weeks ago, until after the vaccination.
Very few of us knew much about anything until recently. Now we do. From deep inside ourselves, like our consciousness or somewhere, we just know. We've shared theories with each other, and now we know.
You keep saying you've shared and that you know this and you know that, but how? What's going on?
Okay, let's just get back to the DNA story, shall we? Why do we have all that unused reserved DNA material?
Okay, it's theorized that it's a reservoir of DNA to be used when there's evolutionary pressure to do so. It can be reorganized as needed to produce new proteins, leading to adaptations to ensure survival of the fittest as environmental conditions change. That's Darwin's premise.
And how do we access the genetic information stored within the DNA?
Well, some of our RNA regulates tapping into the genetic messagings contained within the DNA.
Precisely, doctor. That's how it works with the exon part of the genome, but why doesn't it come from the intron DNA?
There's no regulatory RNA, no specific key to open it up. Wait a minute. Oh my God. Are you suggesting that the viral RNA in the vaccine plays a double role, one we never anticipated, that it opens up the sleeping DNA to produce new proteins that affect the body's functions? That's a fascinating theory. It's astounding, but preposterous.
But that's exactly what we have decided is happening, Doc. It's just the little piece of the RNA in the vaccine that does it.
And all of our models point to such a mechanism, and we believed it to be irrefutable.
Simply put, doctor, we are evolving, and rapidly. We haven't yet analyzed any of the new proteins and enzymes in our bodies, but these new metabolites are the only things that can account for our enhanced intellectual capacities.
You know, at first we thought that our brain density might have increased, but our gray matter is already packed very tightly, and it's not possible to increase brain volume overnight. So that is definitely not happening.
It appears that these new proteins and metabolites are reorganizing the synaptic pathways in our brains to make them work more efficiently.
And this allows us to draw on inert, that hidden knowledge that we've gained throughout our lives, but which we have never accessed before. To give a crude analogy, it's a bit like mixing an additive in a car's gasoline to improve the performance and the fuel efficiency.
Okay, this theory of yours, it's all well and good, but you don't have any kind of data to support it. There's no evidence. More work needs to be done.
We are the proof, Doc. We are the proof. Us and the 120 or so other people in this vaccine study, the ones you don't know about yet, we are the living proof.
So what do we do about this? Obviously, if there's something in this, and I'm not saying that there is, we need to share this with the world.
We disagree, doctor. We would be viewed as freaks, as outcasts. You know how the world treats people that are different. I've watched enough Teenage Mutant horror movies and read enough superhero comic books to know that this would not end well for us. Humans, Homo sapiens, they're not ready to hear all about this.
Yeah, but we must share this news. I must. I have an obligation. Oh, what is that? What's happening? Where is that? How did you do that? How did you do that?
Doctor, don't be concerned. What you just experienced is how we know what the others are thinking and how we've begun to share information and ideas.
Telepathy. Mind control?
Yes, but we're still working on it. Right now, that power is relatively weak and disjointed. We're still learning how to control it, how to better direct it. We still need to be able to put up firewalls to protect each other from prying minds. I hate to tell you what I've already seen inside James's head.
You see, we must have some privacy. We're coming to grips on how to manage that effectively and how to define our boundaries.
So it's early days. It's not like we hear people in our heads, like disembodied voices. It's more like we sense or feel what the other is feeling or thinking. We're still fine-tuning, but we know it can work from a distance because we've already heard from fellow trial participants in other parts of the world.
You know, it's another way of further enhancing our individual intellectual capacity. Everybody is talking about artificial intelligence, AI, but there is nothing artificial about this. We are expanding beyond that limited cerebral power of a single person's mind. We're developing a neurological link, a network between us with far, far more cognitive power than any collection of machines could ever achieve.
What did you just show me? In my mind, what was that place?
You felt one possible scenario, one possibility on what would happen if this were revealed to the world, how the world would treat us if the news got out. You see, our thought modeling is like playing a game of chance in the casino. Any number of combinations can occur, each one leading to a different outcome. Our new collective intelligence, therefore, determines which of these potential scenarios have the greatest probability of becoming reality. The most probable scenarios then become the basis for actionable plans.
But our planning to evaluate vaccine candidates is part of a tried and tested process. We assess if the vaccine is safe and then determine if it works.
But you forgot one important principle, one that you could never work into your evaluation process.
And what is that?
The principle of unintended consequences.
We couldn't possibly foresee every potential outcome, particularly something like the one you're describing.
That's where we have the new insight. The game of chance at the casino. We look at all the cards and calculate the probability of all eventualities. We can predict things that are currently not in the scope of traditional medicine and scientific approach.
As John Gay himself said, keep probability in view. Doctor, we can do that with our new networked powers.
I see. Well, there's something I think that you've missed, something that I didn't feel from when you did that mind meld thing with me. When this coronavirus episode is over, the world will have changed. Human behavior and accepted norms will change.
Human nature won't change. There will still be inequality, injustice, and indifference. That is why we must protect what's happening to us. We can be the change, but we must manage it for the common good. We believe we can do it, but we cannot reveal ourselves until we've mastered it.
I see. So with these new abilities, you'll become the new masterclass, the new overlords, is that it?
No, doctor. Everybody is talking about the post-COVID era as the new age of enlightenment.
Exactly. And history has taught us that after every major catastrophic world event, whether it's, the fall of the Roman Empire, various plagues and pandemics, all the global conflicts, afterwards there has always been change, much of it for the good. The Renaissance, the Age of Reason, abolition of slavery, civil rights, votes for women, they all came after turmoil. But there are still disparities. Poverty, ignorance, distribution of wealth, feeding the planet, climate change, the environment, the list goes on. We can impact all of that, Doctor, but we need more time.
And we need a plan.
Which is what we're working on.
Did you know that some believe that the ring of brambles that was worn by Jesus, the crown of thorns that he wore at crucifixion, some believe that it is a religious relic that is still hidden somewhere out there in the world that when planted will spring to life, ushering in a new era of peace and prosperity? It's kind of ironic, isn't it? Or maybe not, that this current crown, this coronavirus with all its bristles, well, it may be the harbinger of a new age of learning and serenity, growth.
So we have chosen to call ourselves the Homo Coronum, crowned man.
So, what can I do? Can I join you? Yes. I can inject the vaccine and join you.
No, Doctor. Now is not the time for that. We still need you to oversee the development and rollout of the vaccination program. We will guide you through the process, of course, just as our cohorts will guide their program leaders in their parts of the world. We're still working on the plan, but in the short term, I think it's best to keep things in a small group.
But what if you've told me is true? We need to share this.
We cannot let that happen, Doc. It would undermine or destroy the objective, which we've only just begun to understand.
Well, I don't see how you could stop me. Once I share this with my colleagues and my government...
You see, Doctor, that is why we cannot let you do this.
But how will you stop me from... Oh. Oh. Okay, so where were we? Well, I'm glad that you seem to have overcome the transitory loss of senses, that weird synesthesia effect. We'll look into that, but for now, everything appears to be normal, whatever normal is. I'm glad there was nothing more troubling on your minds. Your antibody T-trees are looking good, so we have no undue concerns, and this has been a very useful session. We should arrange to meet again like this in a few weeks to monitor the progress.
Well, I think I speak for all of us when I say we couldn't agree more. I'm glad you've got such a clear and open-minded head about all this, Doc. And of course, we're more than happy to stay in touch and communicate our shared experiences. Well, goodbye, Doc.
Goodbye.
Yes, goodbye.